23. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, "The experts in the law and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. Therefore, pay attention to what they tell you and do it. But do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they teach. They tie up heavy loads hard to carry and put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing even to lift a finger to move them. They do all their deeds to be seen by people, for they make their phylacteries wide and their tassels long. They love the place of honor at banquets and the best seats in the synagogue and elaborate greetings in the marketplace, and to have people call them Rabbi. But you are not to be called Rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all brothers. And call no one Father on earth, for you have one Father who is in heaven. Nor are you to be called Teacher, for you have one Teacher, the Christ. The greatest among you will be the servant, and whoever exalts himself will be humbled. The one who humbles himself will be exalted. But woe to you, experts in the law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites! You keep locking people out of the kingdom of heaven, for you neither enter nor permit those trying to enter to go in. Woe to you, experts in the law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites! You cross land and sea to make one convert, and when you get one, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, "Whoever swears by the temple is bound by nothing, but whoever swears by the gold in the temple is bound by the oath." Blind fools! Which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? And whoever swears by the altar is bound by nothing. But if anyone swears by the gift on it, he is bound by the oath. You are blind! For which is greater, the gift on the altar or the altar that makes the gift sacred? So whoever swears by the altar swears by it and by everything on it, and whoever swears by the temple swears by it and the one who dwells in it. And whoever swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and the one who sits on it. Woe to you, experts in the law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites! You give a tenth of mint, dill, and cumin, yet you neglect what is more important in the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have done these things without neglecting the others. Blind guides, you strain out a gnat, yet swallow a camel. Woe to you, experts in the law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites! Clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee! First clean the inside of the cup so that the outside may become clean too. Woe to you, experts in the law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs that look beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of the bones of the dead and of everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you look righteous to people, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, experts in the law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites! You build tombs for the prophets and decorate their graves of the righteous, and you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have participated with them in the shedding of blood of the prophets. By saying this, you are testifying against yourself that you are descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up, then, the measure of your ancestors, you snakes, you offspring of vipers. How will you escape being condemned to hell? For this reason, I am sending you prophets and wise men and experts in the law, some of whom you will kill and crucify, and some you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town, so that on you will come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the righteous blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. I tell you the truth, this generation will be held responsible for all these things. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those who were sent to you, how often I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you would have none of it. Look, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me from now on until you say, Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Lots of woe to you, my friend. Woe to you. All right, let's back up. Forgiveness Vespers is possibly the most beautiful service you have ever been to. Everyone in the church asks and gives forgiveness to each person personally at the end of the service. Super cool. End of the service. Sorry, I lost my place. And we all greet everyone for the day by asking for their forgiveness. We ask, forgive me, a sinner, and respond, God forgives you, and I forgive. That's very nice. I like that idea. That would be something I would be very much interested in participating in. That's pretty cool. Oh, so Jesus is talking to the crowds, and he's going through a whole set of accusations against the religious leaders who are leading the people, but they are not leading them in an effective way. But he says to the crowd, the experts in the law and the Pharisees sit in the seat of Moses. They have the position of authority, so you need to listen to them, but do not do, and what they tell you to do, do it. But do not practice what they practice. So they're tying up heavy loads, making it hard for you to bear up. They keep adding rules on top of rules, and it is very difficult, and you can't. So here's one of the things is, he said, don't do what they do, but do what they say. But they're telling you all these rules. So how do you do the rules if you're obeying because they're in the position that needs to be obeyed, but you can't actually do them? I'm not sure. I mean, they tie up heavy loads hard and put on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. So all of these requirements of what you need to do, how you have to do it, all of that. But what he's making a distinction is you don't just dismiss someone in a position of authority within the body of Christ or within the people of God because you just don't want to do it. No, you need to listen to them because of their position. But don't follow their lifestyle. They are an example that is not worth following. I'm watching you people welcome in. Picasso, this is also said almost just before he gives Peter the keys to bind people on heaven and earth in the same authority, but renewed in the new covenant. Yeah. So it depends on where we're telling the story. Here it is as he's doing his final teachings before Holy Week. Yeah, they make rules, but don't follow the rules they make up. Exactly. They make up rules, and we're going to get into some of the rules that, and they bear heavy loads, put them on their shoulders, but they won't lift a finger to help you. So if we put it this way, if you are in a church and they are telling you that something in your life is a problem and you need to fix it and change it, yet they will not help you to do anything to change it or fix it. They say, no, you got to fix it yourself. That's the same thing. So if your living conditions are one that they think you need to change, but they won't help you to change that, it's a problem. If something you are doing is a problem, like, well, you should quit that, but you don't have finances to eat better food than the food that you're eating, they need to do something to help fix that. That's one of the problems we have. Now, I know it's a little bit different than exactly what Jesus is saying, but I think it applies in a similar way. So Matthew 23, Jesus is addressing the crowd and his disciples, and his teaching is on the experts in the law and the Pharisees. So they sit in the Moses seat, so you need to pay attention to them. Those who are in authority, you need to pay attention. You can't just ignore them, but they don't practice what they teach. So you need to listen to them. They tie up heavy loads on your shoulders. They're not willing to lift a finger to help you move the things that they are telling you need to do. I've seen this multiple times, or I should say, I have friends who tell me of these situations where they had something going on in life. They try to go to the church for help with it, or the church comes to them because the church finds out a problem, tells them they need to change, but the church won't help them change the situation that they have. Like a friend of mine who were not Christian, we're living together, came to faith, started going to a church, then realized that, they wanted to change the situation they were in, and the church said, what you need to do is both live separately, so go do that. And they had no financial means to change their situation. They're like, hey, we've already committed to not having relations with each other. The church's like, that's not good enough, because you're living under the appearance of evil, and you have to change it. And they would not lift a finger to help them. They didn't say, oh, well, we'll help you. We'll find some place where you could stay until the wedding, or we'll help you find it. No, fix it. It's your problem. You created it. You need to fix. You need to lift a finger to help the people that want help to change, because they can't always do it themselves. And so you lay up a load and say, you got to move out. You got to change your situation. But if we won't help, then don't make the demand on people. Okay, rant over. But in a similar way, they would do this. They make demands of people. Here's what you got to do, and then do nothing. So he's going to go on and describing more about what they do. They do their deeds to be seen by people. Everything that they do is for people to notice them and see how holy they are. They have phylacteries wide and tassels long. Phylacteries were small leather cases containing Old Testament scripture verses worn on the arms and the forehead of Jews, especially when praying. The custom was derived from the Old Testament passages. So it says, bind it on your forehead and on your wrist. So they literally took, and it was, boom, let me put this scripture right here and on my wrist, and I'm going to have a big box so you can obviously see how much I'm carrying with me. And then their tassels are long. The tassels refer to the tassels the males were obliged to wear on the four corners of his outer garment, according to Mosaic law. The term crespidon, in some contexts, could refer to the outer fringe of a garment, possibly in Mark. This edge could have been plain or decorated. Crespidon denotes the tassel worn in the four corners of the garment. Okay. So they're making it they're long. They're going to be harder to keep and maintain. They're also decorative, so you're spending more money on decorations. So they want everyone to see that. And they love the place of honor at the banquets and the best seats in the synagogue. Know anybody that wants the best seats and, oh, this is my seat and don't take my seat? And they have elaborate greetings in the marketplace. So when people are around, the Talmud speaks out such greetings in detail. Oh, okay, you just say the Talmud tells us, spells out what they were. I don't know what they were. Hello, Grand Poobah of the royal house of the coronation of the birth of and the descendant of, therefore, you're great. I don't know. Something along those lines would be probably, and you have people call them a rabbi. Make sure you call me rabbi. An equivalent would be people demanding that you always refer to me, the Grand Reverend, the Pastor Reverend, Doctor Reverend. People still do it today, but calling them teacher, denoting their prominence over you and your inferiority to them. So it's not, I don't think necessarily about the specific word, but about the superiority over you that they have. And you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all brothers. Here's a point that I really like to have. You are all brothers. So if we are elevating the pastor above everyone else in the congregation, we're going contrary Now, it's not to say you don't call the person politely pastor or reverence, but if you're elevating them because of the title and the position, then you rarely call a brother. And you're to call no one father on earth. I don't think this has anything to do with calling your parent, your biological parent, father. I don't think this is in the case. Father on earth, for there is one Father in heaven. Now, a lot of people will go and say, well, what about the Catholics who call their priest father? Isn't that falling in line with this? I'm not sure that is. The point being the elevation, and so you can refer to someone without the point of elevation. Nor to be called teacher, for there is one teacher, the Christ. So, okay, we have teachers in school. So, again, what he's emphasizing is more of the point of the demanding on the individual of what you're to refer to them as. I think that is in the problem. That is in the problem. And that we all in the body of Christ are equal in nature. We are all brothers and sisters. We are heirs with Christ. The greatest among you shall be the servant, and the one who exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. This is a common phrase that gets repeated several times throughout Jesus' teaching. Picasso reminds me of people who get tattoos of Bible verses and put Bible verses in their social media profiles. Yeah. Paul even calls himself a father of the Corinthians. Yes. Hebrews 5 says you should be teachers by now. Yeah. Like I said, I think this is not a prohibition, but it is. So he's talking about what the Pharisees are doing. The Pharisees are demanding, and the religious leaders are demanding titles for themselves so that they can be superior. So in all of these examples, there are people who will lord it over you. Doctor, I have a doctorate degree, and you do not. You please refer to me by my proper title. It's that he is, I believe, talking against here, not the simple, way to say that, hey, yeah, I have a teacher in class. I'm learning from this person. I am, a relationship there of actual process. It is the elevation of people instead of being humble. And especially when he's saying those who be humbled will be exalted. Those who exalt themselves will be humbled. Is the person exalting themselves by the things you say? That, I think, is the point of it. That's where he starts. That's where he ends. The titles themselves aren't the point. The point is, are these titles being lorded over you? Don't do that. Christ is the heir as the firstborn, and the firstborn is responsible for dividing the inheritance between the rest of the siblings. Yes. Okay, now we're getting into a series of woes. I don't know if I'm going to spend a lot of time in each of these, but they all start out in the same formula. So as we go through them, you're supposed to hear them over and over in crescendo. But let's just count them. So we've got 13, 15, 16, 23, 25, 27, 29. So there are 7 woes, 7 being the number of totality, 7 being the number of completeness. So there needs to be no more mentioned. By example, these 7 cover everything. That's part of the point of having 7. He has done all that he can to point out their hypocrisy. They keep locking people out of the kingdom of heaven, for they neither enter nor permit those trying to enter to go in. So they are the gatekeepers. They have the door shut. They keep putting barriers in the way. They're keeping people out. The second one, you cross land and sea to make a convert, but when you do, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourself. So when you get a student who will studiously do everything you do, you are making them just as corrupted as you are. And you're like, when you got someone who is ready to go do it, you're going to do whatever you can to make them fully founded and compliant with everything that you teach, which is a problem. And then you get into the swearing by, and so one of the things that you would do is, and they did, I should say, is you would make a promise to one person and later make a promise to another person, and because of the thing you swore by and the two things are in conflict, you would get out of the one promise by having made a promise on something else. So they had a whole bunch of series of things. So I'll swear by the temple, but then no, I swore by the gold to somebody else, so I have to honor that one. Sorry, I only swore by the temple to you, but I swore by the gold over here. I'm not gonna have to do it. And so he's making arguments here about the whole thing of where you're doing, and you don't understand which is greater and how you're doing all these things. It's a problem. The bigger problem is you're intentionally trying to get out of things. And then you have the give a tenth of their mint, their dill, and their cumin, but they neglect the more important things: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. So you're worried about, I've got a pound of dill that I collected, or cumin, and I've got to make sure I get it exactly my tithe out of there. Like, these are all small amounts of things of measurement. They're not big things, and you're worried about these little things, except these little things are not as important as justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have done those without neglecting the other things. So he's not saying, well, you can forget about, and you don't have to tithe your mint, your dill, and your cumin. He's saying you've been tedious over something that's not as important as something else. Justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You strain at a gnat, yet you swallow a camel. Like, I gotta get that out of the way, but you're doing something even worse. So we honor people because they are Christ-like. We don't honor people in and of themselves as a perfect standard, but we reflect always back to our Father who is in heaven. If I call a man Father, that means I work to be like them. And this is appropriate if we are imitating them in the things they also do to imitate Christ. When we honor Christ, we honor the Father, since the Son is the perfect image of the Father. Absolutely. Thanks for lurking, Warrior. Artsy, I know an old lady who swallowed a camel. I know an old lady who swallowed a gnat. Now fancy that, to swallow a gnat. Okay, we'll keep going. What are you experts in the law, you Pharisees, you hypocrites? You are whitewashed tombs that look beautiful on the outside, but inside you are full of bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way same way, on the outside you look righteous to people, but inside you're full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. So one of the things that they did would whitewash tombs, and you just have it be on the ground, and you might be walking along, and there might be a body buried there. So by walking over that, you can't touch the dead because the dead are unclean, and the ground is touching the dead, and the grave is touching the dead, and you walk over the grave, you become unclean. So we got to make sure we know where every body is buried, so we can't accidentally become unclean without our knowledge. So they whitewash the tombs to keep themselves from unclean and the appearance of uncleanness, yet inside themselves they are absolutely unclean. So he's making an accusation here about what they do, the extremes they go to, yet their heart mode is something different. You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous, and you say, if we'd lived in those times, we wouldn't have done it. So they are making themselves out to be the descendants of the one who killed the prophets and saying, yep, those are our ancestors. Okay. One of the things that you do, as like Picasso was mentioning here, is you seek to emulate someone. So by claiming to be the descendants of, to be a child of, is to associate yourself with the deeds that that person did. So by association with the ones who killed the prophets and venerating those people, honoring those people, you are associating with the acts of those people. Therefore, you're guilty of it too. And so that's part of what he's saying. I know that's a strange idea to most of us. We don't think that way. But that's what he is getting at. So if I were to say I'm a student of or a disciple of, and throw the name in there of whatever preacher or pastor or book writer that people might know, then you would get the same kind of a thing. So I'll just say Billy Graham because he's the easiest one. So I'm a student of Billy Graham. I'm a a disciple of Billy Graham, you would understand what I'm saying. In the same way, you know, I'm not a descendant of Billy Graham. My name ain't Graham. I ain't related to him. But I am, or I can claim him as a father in the faith. So they're doing the same thing. And so that's what's going on here. And he's saying, you snakes, you offspring of vipers, which is what they were, because they were killing the prophets. How can you escape being condemned to hell? You're associating with the people that killed the prophets. You are venerating the people who killed the prophets. You're claiming relation to them. Like, you can't have it that way. Okay, for this reason, I am sending prophets and wise men and experts, some of whom you will kill and crucify, and others who you will flog in the synagogues, and pursue from town to town, so that on you will come all the righteous blood. So there are more to come. So you have said you would not have done it. You say you would not have done it. Well, there are going to be prophets who are coming, and you're going to do exactly what your ancestors did by killing my disciples. And so all of the bloodshed from Abel to Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar, is going to be held responsible for all these things. So it is coming to a head. Now, I think one of the other Gospels has a different rendering of this, and Zechariah, son of Berechiah, is a little bit hard to track down and all that, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail, but just to let you know, if people say, oh, no, that's a wrong reference, or that person didn't exist, or we don't know who it's talking about, yeah, there's some confusion or something that is a little off here that makes it more ambiguous and not clear. Galaxy, welcome in, friend. And then we have, oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those who are sent to you. So this is a pattern. You are associated with the pattern. Notice how we're getting a longer thing here in the end. And then we get to turning to the city, from the leaders of the city to the city. I long to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chick under her wings. But you would have none of it. So when people say that God doesn't have references to himself as being a woman, or Jesus doesn't, well, here is a mother hen. There's a reference of a mother hen given by Jesus. Look, your house has left you desolate, for I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So it's a quotation from Psalm 118. Okay, I thought they were going to say something else, perhaps. So, is this the Pharisees will not see him again? Is this a reference to his triumphal entry is going to happen? So the next time you see me is going to lead to the triumphal entry? Or is this going to be his triumphal return? Well, I think it's got to be triumphal entry, because that'd be the most obvious thing there. To be fair, women did come from man. Yes. Oh, no, I was just simply saying there are some people that do not believe that there are references to God that are imaging female references, and a mother hen absolutely is one of those. So that was all I was saying, because some people get upset when people will say female references and characters of God, and here's one of Jesus. So that's what I was pointing out. All right. Woes are kind of fun, right? Aren't they? Woe to you, and woe to you, I say, and woe some more, and woe again.